Actually, it's only like a year old.
Okay.
Because many of the organizations that were, it's music in these headphones.
Yes, the commercial.
Okay.
Yeah. You can take them off if you want. We're in commercial.
Okay.
Yeah.
I started it about a year ago, maybe a little more than a year ago, simply because all of the organizations that I got into that do this work, some of them, or many of them, are disingenuous.
Okay, we'll get into that. Sorry, I'm going to be quick, but we have limited time. When did you start becoming an advisory board member here at Elevation Project?
About a year and a half.
It's like that with all audio. We already talked to Mal about it. It doesn't go away. It's the studio. It is what it is.
I bet you can get rid of it.
You can use it on your phone in the bathroom.
Yeah, I can record on my phone. You're right.
Just want to stay focused. We can talk about that later on or tomorrow. When did you start becoming a part of the Elevation Project?
Coming back.
About the elevation, as soon as I touched, as soon as I came home.
So what's that, 7 years ago?
No, that's almost 2 years ago.
Okay, we're back.
Evening Words is live at Eddie's house at 5901 Market Street, and we are back on WURD 900 AM 96.1 FM, wordradio.com, and the Word Radio app. Folks, come on through to Eddie's house at 5901 Market Street for this live broadcast coming up at 6 p.m. of Judge the Judges. Also want to note that this is the Elevation Project's program, and we're broadcasting as a part of Every Voice, Every Vote, a collaborative project of the Lindfest Institute of Journalism with lead support by the William Penn Foundation. You can learn more about this effort at www.everyvoiceeveryvote.org. The editorial content is created obviously and independently of the project's donors. Happy to welcome to the program the good brother Muti Ajamu-Osagboro.
Oh, yes.
Osagboro. Yes.
On point.
Ajamu-Osagboro.
On point.
A Philadelphia native who's wrongfully incarcerated for 42 years, beginning at age 17. Now, serving on the advisory board of the Elevation Project and assisting other wrongfully convicted individuals to fight for their freedom through his organization, Melanin Court Watch. Muti advocates for systemic reform and supports individuals impacted by the justice system. Brother Muti, welcome to Evening Words.
Thanks. Great to be here.
It's great. It's great to have you on here. We at Evening Words, we've been working with and in the community around folks advocating for the wrongfully incarcerated. Can you let folks know what your story is and as much as you want to share, what your experiences have been with the carceral system here?
First of all, I wasn't wrongfully incarcerated. I was wrongfully imprisoned. The root word of the word prison, imprisonment, is prison. And they prefer to use the word incarceration because the word is prison, which is the root word, is prison. Mm-hmm. And if there's a war being waged, an undeclared war being waged against African people, black and brown people, and to make you have amnesia of that fact, because when you capture prisoners, where do you put them? You put them in prison. So they don't want to call it prison anymore.
So incarceration is a euphemism for you. Imprisonment.
No, not for me. In fact,
right.
In fact, I'm just somebody who was able to identify it and call it for what it is. But yes, I was imprisoned as a child, prosecuted as a child for a crime I didn't commit, with the evidence to prove my actual innocence. And it took 42 years to actually vindicate myself. It was an arduous task, as you can imagine. But
do you mind telling us a little bit about that process?
Oh, absolutely. Myself, going back to the beginning, myself and 4 other individuals, all of us were children. 4 of them decided to commit a crime. And these individuals have pled guilty to the crime and confessed to the crime. One of the individuals, in order to save himself, he implicated me and the others. I was like a bonus. So he threw me in for good measures.
A bonus for the prosecution in this
absolutely.
They're trying to be aggressively locking up as many people as they can.
Absolutely. It was really like a game, like notches on the belt. A lot of this has came out since then.
Yes.
About how they operate in the old guard, not the new guard, because the new guard prosecution is a whole new world. It's a whole new brave world. And they actually, the new prosecutor or the new district attorney, Larry Krasner, he actually takes the United States Supreme Court edict that the job of a prosecutor is to seek justice, not a conviction. He actually takes that serious. And prior to him, the 5 or 6 administrations in a row had turned that edict on its head And their thing was the job of a prosecutor is to get eviction, justice be damned, or in a much more harsher, F justice. And so he basically is a revolutionary that was produced from the seeds that we've been planting over 40 years. Regurgitating concepts like instead of being tougher on crime, be smarter on crime, and making the connection between poverty and crime and things of that nature.
And also by doing that, making the city safer.
Absolutely, without question, and safer in a real way, not just the rhetoric, but you actually see the transformation in people's lives on a daily basis. I go all over the city, all 5 parts of the city, Northeast, Germantown, West Philly, South Philly, and North Philly. I'm from the great state of North Philadelphia, city of Richard Allen. And so those are the only 5 parts of the city. If somebody tells you or names something else other than them, that's a terminology that they didn't got from some developer who's trying to sell you trying to charge you a whole bunch of money for a house that doesn't really cost as much. But I've been to all 5. We have been to all 5, boots on the ground. I'm a part of multiple formations. I wear many, many hats to get done what I do. I'm a guerrilla journalist. I'm an artist, filmmaker, et cetera, et cetera, et
And
cetera.
activists, can we? So I want folks to understand what the work that Melanin Court Watch does. Can you talk about when you established it and how you all operate across the city?
Actually, what we do is we go into court, and the initial organization I was a part of, and I still am, but we need some independence to be much more assertive in our vision for what needs to be done in the courts. The initial group that I was a part of is called Guardians of Democracy. It's a national organization. But it's almost sort of like they put handcuffs on me in the worst way. And of course, after being in prison for 42 years.
Zero tolerance.
Absolutely.
Tolerance.
So that's why it was created. But what we do is we go into court and we observe, we monitor, we are court monitors.
Brother Moody, I hate to interrupt you, but this is a really important point. Can you stress for our audience the importance of community members just showing up in court?
Oh, Lord have
Can you
mercy.
express the importance of that for those who are wrongfully in prison and those who are under the boot sometimes of this criminal justice
I'll
system?
explain it and then I'll give you an example. The difference between you not showing up and you showing up, or you showing up and not showing up, if you don't show up, it will continue. Black and brown people will go to jail, go to prison for a long time unabated, over and over again, in many cases for crimes that they didn't commit. And those who are actually guilty, but they may be guilty of less than, where they may have committed a robbery, but they gave them 15 robberies because they attributed the robberies being committed a certain way, so therefore they clean the books on them and give them 15 robberies.
Meaning they get crimes off their books because they're maybe slightly similar and attributed them to someone who may have nothing to do with those crimes.
Correct. And as a result, they'll go from a 5 to 10 to 75 to 125 year sentence, or 100. That's an illegal sentence. 75 to 180 years. These astronomical, we call them football numbers. These astronomical numbers, and in fact, it's a death sentence. In fact, it's a de facto death sentence because you're not going to do 100. You're going to die. Right. You're going to die in prison. Right. And so what we do at Melanin Watch is we go in and we observe the judges, the prosecutors, the defense lawyers, the court clerks, everybody. Everybody involved with the court system, we observe them.
Tell us some of the things you see when you're
Oh my goodness!
Because there are a lot of folks who listen, and if you've ever been in a courtroom before, maybe this is my own paranoia, Brother Moody. When I go into a courtroom, even if I'm there in an official capacity, I always feel powerless in there. I always feel like there's a lot of things going on and conversations going on between people that I'm outside of. That's me, somebody who's coming in as an expert witness or as a journalist sometimes. I can only imagine what it must feel like to come in any other way. But talk to us a little bit about what you see when you all...
Well, that feeling that you have, that's intentional. It's set up that way. And one of the things that we do is we create a new lexicon. In the American jurisprudence, white supremacy is codified in the court of the language. It's codified in all of America, but particularly in the court system. And so one of the things we do first is we decode. We crack the code, destroy some of the words, create new words, and these words aptly describe the crimes that are being committed against black and brown, and to a lesser degree, poor white people every day in the courts. Whether it's the judge committing a crime, whether it's the prosecutor committing a crime, whether it's the defense lawyer committing a crime. Unfortunately, most defense lawyers in the city of Philadelphia are closet prosecutors. They put in prison more people than prosecutors.
Just on their weak defenses.
Not necessarily weak defenses. Incompetence is one reason, but the main reason is just absolute treason. Put it this way. The Daily News or the Inquirer did an expose maybe about 20 years ago, and they listed all of the individuals, or the top maybe 15 or 20 individuals who were being paid to represent or defend people who were charged with homicide. Almost all of them were white. I'm almost certain all of them were white. It was top 15 or 20, and maybe one of them was a female, but they were all white. And their conviction rate was like 90%, 95%.
Those numbers track nationally.
Absolutely,
Yes.
which nobody highlighted.
And nobody questions.
But here's the thing. How is it that you have a 90% failure rate, but you keep getting assignments? Nowhere else in the world where you have a 90 or 95% failure rate and you still get to keep your gig. And you get it exponentially. In fact, because of your, incompetence is an excuse. Being incompetent is malicious. To not be prepared is to be malicious, because there's no excuse.
So wait, these are two different things. Are you saying that sometimes they're incompetent, or they're unprepared, or is it both?
It's a mixture of both, but it's intentional. If you're not prepared, that's intentional. You have a fiduciary duty to be prepared, to defend your client.
A legal duty to be prepared. Yes.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So not to be prepared is treasonous, and then in many cases they know. Most of the work that I've vindicated the rights of thousands of prisoners, thousands of people, not just prisoners, but people who were on the other side of the double military razor wire fence, as well as behind that, or on the other side of that.
And when you say vindicated, explain exactly what you mean.
In different situations, they're different, contingent upon what the case is. Sometimes I've been able to get people exonerated. Other times I've been able to get them to reduce sentence. Sometimes I've been able to get them to vindicate their rights as a parent in family court. Sometimes I've been able to get them their housing back, their relatives to leave them their estate, and folks try to skip. And so there is running the gamut, contingent upon what their circumstances is. That's how we move. Sometimes I'll just get them a new trial, and then they'll take a deal because they understand that the deck is stacked against them, or they conclude that the deck is stacked against them, which it is.
The plea system is part of the problem, though, as well.
Pardon me?
The plea system, the plea bargaining system is also part of the problem.
Oh, part and parcel, absolutely. Simply because most people don't know that 96-7% of trials don't go to trial.
That's right. Most of them are.
It's 3 to 4% that actually have trials.
Done with deals with the same defenders.
And that's done because the prosecutor, who has all the power, their power is absolute. Folks don't even want to talk about that. Many judges pretend to have power, but not like the prosecutor can put the judge in prison, the defense in prison, the clerks in prison, all of which who at different times have committed crimes to to either get a conviction or to keep folks in prison. So the prosecutor has the most power. And so the prosecutor has the discretion who to prosecute and who not to prosecute and what for. And most times, smart prosecutors reserve their resources for the most serious cases and don't waste their resources on not necessarily trivial cases, but cases that don't fully endanger the community.
We got to take a quick break here, brother. We're talking with Ajamu-Osagboro.
Yes, sir.
Who is on the board for the Elevation Project, but also works with Melanin Court Watch. You're listening to Evening Words on WURD, Progressive Black Talk Media on 900 AM, 96.1 FM, WordRadio.com, and the Word Radio app. We're going to have more Evening Words of this Evening Words special broadcast live from Eddie's house at 5901 Market Street. Folks, you can come on down as we get ready for the Elevation Project's Judge the Judges, Judicial Discussion Forum, part of Every Voice, Every Vote. Stay tuned for more Evening Words after this commercial break.